Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signs a law removing squatters' rights in his state. Is there a catch? Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signing into law a bill that removes squatters' rights in his state. Now, as I was asking from the beginning, is there a catch here? Because understand the way that squatters typically operate. They say they have a right to be in this property. They have a lease. They have something that ties them to the property. And what they want you to do is go to court and go through an eviction process. But during the court time and the time they have as a so-called tenant with a so-called lease, they can extend their stay by months. I've heard about years of a squatter being in the home, depending upon your state. I don't really know how they do it. I'm not here to give you a tutorial about how to squat because I don't support that at all. I think, before we get to the actual video that I have, I think that if you break into someone's home or if you're an uninvited guest, you just walk into somebody's house, that should be considered a home invasion. And last I checked, if somebody home invaded you, you have certain rights to deal with them accordingly. I'm not going to say what you can do, but we know that 2 + 2 is 4, and I digress. Before I go any further and get any more triggered, quite literally, let's get into the actual news clip. If you want to see the clip in full without my commentary, link as always will be in the description. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
We move on next here tonight to the new state law that now allows squatters to be thrown out of homes that don't belong to them.
Governor Ron DeSantis signed the bill this afternoon in Orlando. And our Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders joins us now live from Tallahassee to tell us how all this will work. Forrest.
Well, guys, I can tell you this was not a very controversial policy. In fact, it was unanimously approved by the legislature earlier this year during the legislative session. And now, with Governor Ron DeSantis' signature, Florida becomes one of the first states in the nation to lean in on this issue.
I think every state in the US of A should do this. I don't know why they haven't. I think maybe this is kind of a newer thing that's going on. I mean, squatters aren't anything new, but as far as a phenomenon sweeping the nation, that might be kind of new. We might be in uncharted territory as far as the volume of squatters. I think it might have exploded during C-19, the scamdemic, and then you have stuff like short-term rental Airbnbs where there's no real mechanism to remove squatters. So I'm glad this is happening right now in the state of Florida, but I have a lot of questions. Let's see if they are answered. Check it out.
With rental homes, second homes, and so many others, Florida is no stranger to squatters. In fact, just this week, Martin County Sheriff made national headlines warning of a viral video teaching squatters how to squat.
Yeah, that video right there was crazy. That guy, the illegal alien, that you have an illegal alien telling other illegal aliens, and I guess normies as well, that might be citizens of the USA, how to squat in the home legally. That was a ridiculous video.
Circumvent the laws.
Crime is a lot like cancer. It spreads, and if you see it somewhere else, let's be on guard. Let's get ahead of it.
When someone is illegally occupying a vacant property, current rules require what can be a lengthy civil court battle to remove them.
All right, so here we go.
Wednesday, Florida's governor signed a new law to streamline that removal process,
providing very swift remedies.
I just want to say one thing before we continue with the actual law. He is a great governor, Ron DeSantis, a fantastic governor, probably the best governor in the nation. As a president, I'm not quite sure. But as a Florida governor, he's fantastic. And I think that all Floridians would agree with me if they're being honest.
Because what the squatters know is even when they're in the wrong, it's a massive process many times before they can be evicted.
Right.
And a lot of times the process is very expensive.
Property owners will now be able to request law enforcement immediately remove a squatter if they entered illegally. They've been told to leave and haven't, and as long as they're not involved in a tenant-landlord legal dispute.
Now, that's the key. See, that's the thing. Not a tenant involved in a legal dispute. Now, how does one establish that they are a tenant? See, that's the thing. A lot of these squatters would say, I'm a tenant. Here's my evidence. So I want to know how that whole thing would go. And also, if they enter illegally, what happens sometimes, you have squatters in Airbnbs. And this is part of the reason why I don't like Airbnb. It's kind of janky. It's not really set up properly like hotels are. I would never stay in an Airbnb. Like, you got to put a pistol to my forehead to make me stay there. But anyway, hotels all day long because it's too much stuff, too much drama with Airbnbs. But the way that it works, and again, no tutorial, somebody would get an Airbnb normally and just stay. I don't know what happens afterward, but they didn't enter illegally. Okay. So the first part, they didn't satisfy that. And then if they've been told to leave in heaven, okay, you could do that. But then they might be able to say, oh, I'm a tenant because I had signed something with Airbnb.
Lord legal dispute. The new law also increases penalties. A second-degree felony if squatters cause more than $1,000 in damage, and a first-degree felony for knowingly advertising a fake home sale or rental.
That happens. That happens a lot. I've seen it where, like during this pandemic, in certain places, a squatter will take over someone's home and then advertise it to be an Airbnb.
My name is Justin Melcarrick, and I'm just one of the neighbors that had to deal with squatters invading our street.
The change is a big win for Floridians like Justin, who warned Wednesday just how bad things can get.
The squatters brought reckless driving, drugs, weapons, and verbal threats to the lives of my neighbors.
The new law also getting rave reviews from Florida's largest professional trade association, Florida Realtors. Vice President Andy Gonzalez said the Sunshine State now has a deterrent to halt the horror stories.
If you own a property, even if you're away for a period of time, you shouldn't have to go through legal loopholes if there's someone squatting your house.
The next step is for the changes to take effect. Florida's anti-squatting law now coming online in July of this year.
Okay, so let's talk about something more controversial, which is the vacation rentals bill, which got through the legislature earlier this session.
Like, what's going on with this? We're talking about Airbnbs and things of this nature. Airbnb sucks. I'm sorry. A lot of you guys might like it. Some of you guys might have Airbnbs, might be hosts, but I don't see that lasting for too much longer. I really don't.
That is a policy that would basically give the state more control over how to regulate vacation properties over cities and counties. And it's getting some blowback from the Florida Realtors Association in particular, who are urging Governor Ron DeSantis to veto that policy, saying that it actually diminishes property owner rights. We'll have to see what he does there, Paul.
All right, Forrest. Also today, Disney and DeSantis settling a years-long fight over Disney's opposition to the parental rights bill, critics labeling it the Don't Say Gay law. What was behind the time?
Well, I won't get into that right there, but DeSantis is doing a good job. There was a lawsuit between Disney and DeSantis. Well, I guess maybe Disney and the state of Florida. And Florida, DeSantis won that whole thing. All right. So shout out to DeSantis, one of the best governors in the USA. And shout out to all the homeowners out there in Florida. As I close, I want to say this. Squatters, in my opinion, should have no rights. The main thing is when they enter your home illegally and they just refuse to leave. I covered a story where the lady in New York City inherited a home from her parents and she's trying to sell it. She goes to the property, the lock's been changed. So they entered her home illegally and she changed the locks again when she was able to gain access to the home. And then they came back and barged into her house right in front of the police. But they couldn't do anything because the guy said he was a tenant, although there was no proof of actual tenancy, no lease signed. I think when you're talking about actual tenants and landlords, you sign the lease and it should go into a database of some sort. It gets witnessed by a third party, a licensed person. It goes in a database. You take a picture or something. It's got to be some kind of foolproof way to say that you are a tenant or you're not a tenant. And if you're not a tenant, you don't have this evidence. You're not in a database. You don't have the lease. You don't have a third party witness. You got to get up out of there when the actual homeowner calls the police on you. Get up out of there. No lengthy court battle, expensive. You're going to put me in the debt and take time out of my life and take time away from me actually making money to get you out of my house. Not going to do it. So this is a great bill, a great law that should happen all over the USA. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your opinion about this law in Florida that removes squatters' rights? Should it be a national thing? Did it not go far enough? What would you add to it that's not there, if you would add anything at all? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I love this law. This is a great step forward for Florida and for the entire country. Every state should have this because one of the worst feelings I would imagine as a homeowner would be to have a squatter in your house and you can't do anything about it. I mean, you can do something, but it'll take months. Sometimes it might take years, depending upon where you are. And sometimes you don't get any kind of action that happens in the court. You got to go to the news and things of this nature to make anything happen. It's too much. It's ridiculous. Look, you enter my home illegally. You don't have any right here. I told you to leave. You're not leaving. You're destroying my home. Okay, we're going to call the police and they're going to get you out of there. It's just as simple as that. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.